first.
Okay, so you're being recorded. Remember that, everyone.
Well,
Okay,
we only have 6 members. Oh, we have 7. Okay, we got 7. All right, we're good.
We're good.
All right, so we'll call
Call the meeting to order.
the meeting to order officially, I guess.
Thank you,
Yep.
Jimmy.
No, we
And
don't.
the second,
We don't.
sorry?
We only have 1, 2, 3,
5.
4, 5, 6.
Wait, 1, 2,
Oh yeah, we're
4,
50%.
5, 7.
7. As long as we have 7, and we have 7,
We got
No, we
7.
We don't.
3.
We
Yeah,
have Mark.
Phyllis.
We have Mark and Steve. They're not members of LMAC.
Oh,
Harrington
Mark
wants
isn't.
to know what the damn password is.
Oh, there is no password. Tell them to just come and join.
Okay.
Perfect. That'll give us the. I was calling Mark.
The password is lobster rolls for all.
You tell him that when he comes in.
I will.
116.
There you go. Paul Ramsey, new to the program. Holy smokes.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah. And off
So,
late.
honestly, we really should get to our guest speaker.
Yeah.
Because you only need a quorum to make votes. So we can
That's
start the
correct.
meeting without a quorum.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
So may we have a motion to suspend the meeting and introduce our guest speaker?
Yes, we can.
I'll call the motion. Yep, I'll make a
Second.
motion to suspend the minutes.
Awesome.
Second?
Second.
Was that Jim?
Yes, it was Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
All in favor? All.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then we'll ask the guest speaker.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening. I'll let you introduce yourself from the DEP.
Yeah, my name is Min Huang. I head up the migratory bird program for the state DEP, and that includes the waterfowl program. And Mark had asked me to talk to you all about resident Canada geese, it sounds. I've been in contact with Mary via email and provided her some information. And I mean, I'm here, I guess, really to answer your questions. And so maybe the best thing to make this most productive is just for, you folks, the Lake Commission, I guess is what you're called, to, utilize my knowledge, I guess, and see which way you guys want to go with regards to geese on the lake.
Can we shoot them and have
Yeah.
a picnic?
Yes.
Thank
Can we eat
you.
'em?
Okay, so, as a resident of Columbia and a hunter, I have actually, over the last, I'd say 15 years, actually given thought to talking to folks about hunting on the lake. But, the lake is pretty tight. There's a lot of houses around it. There's certainly, it would be legal, for instance, in certain parts of that lake to hunt, but no, that's not a viable option. I mean, it sounds like this year there was a lot more production than in most years. I've heard from several folks that there were at least 5 family groups, I think, that were on the lake, and that's a lot more than has been, over the last 10 years, I would say for sure. So the information I provided to Mary, part of that packet includes information on what we call resident Canada goose management plans. And those plans, the ability to implement those plans was created through statute in 2003. And basically what it allows is municipalities, homeowner associations to develop management plans to not only discourage geese, but to remove geese. And the best time to remove geese is when they're flightless, which happens every year. It's in June into early July. And, if the town or the Lake Association wanted to go that route for next year, we would help develop such a plan. I'll tell you, they're extremely controversial. Basically what it does, you're rounding up helpless birds, you're euthanizing them, and then you're donating that meat, which is very nutritious, it's very tasty, to a soup kitchen, a homeless shelter, so that nothing goes to waste. And you can certainly rid the problem that way. There are other ways that you could go about trying to reduce the problem. This year again, sounds like there were 5 family groups, so 5 pairs of geese were very successful raising young. Next March and early April, you could have all the homeowners go out on their properties and make sure that nobody's nesting on their property. And if they are nesting, destroy those nests. That's certainly allowable under federal law. The one problem that I might see is that maybe these geese aren't nesting on the lake. Maybe they're nesting along the inlet creek that comes in off Erdoney. There's a lot of nice habitat there. I think the town owns a big chunk of that for open space. So, if they're nesting there, maybe some folks could be going out there and, trying to find nests in the spring. If you get rid of the families, you're going to get rid of the adults. That's the bottom line. But if they have young, they're going to stay until they can fly. And I think right now you're not seeing geese on the lake. Is that correct?
No,
I
I
haven't
see
noticed them
ducks.
lately.
Not
Yes.
lately.
Right,
Over the
they're
last
gone. They're
week or so.
flying. I've seen a big group over at Chamonix lately on Cherry Hill on that big pond.
Yep.
And so maybe most of those birds have left. But again, it's that period from late May, early June, all the way through the middle of July. When those birds are raising young, they can't fly. That's when they're causing problems.
What's the typical method that is used to discourage them?
There's a lot of different hazing techniques, and the problem is that it takes constant harassment. The birds are very smart, and if you're hazing them off of, let's say, 3 or 4 lawns, they're just going to go somewhere where they're not being disturbed.
Exactly.
And that might be 2 or 3 lawns over.
Exactly.
And so, in a situation like Columbia Lake, you need basically all the homeowners to be on board. And that may be very, very difficult to coordinate that type of activity. And so, I think your best bet might be to put together some information, get it out to everyone. Am I still here?
Oh, yes.
I
Okay.
think so.
Yep.
Mark,
You know-
Steve's trying to get in.
I'm here. Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Thanks
Can
for
you hear
showing
me?
up.
We got
Oh,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
We got you, Steve.
And Dave Vanderbilt.
Okay, you
Sorry,
have a
Ben.
quorum now.
We do,
Yes,
Lynn.
we
Thank
do.
you.
It's a parliamentary process.
Hey,
Um,
Ben.
Sure.
Quick question. Not only was there a quantity of geese families this year, but oh my God, were they bold. We have had elderly people try to chase them off their land and they won't even move. And, some of these people can't run. We've had dogs try to chase them off. Mine do a good job, but not all dogs. And the other issue is we have people who have seasonal homes here who only come out for the weekend. So I can tell you my neighbor next door comes out every weekend and has gallons of goose poop that they have to clean up off their dock and off their lawn before they can even use it.
Yep. And
So
Quick question.
I'm leaning towards what are the lethal versus the non-lethal approaches
Well-
if we chose to do this.
Let me follow up on that. Min, is it legal in the state of Connecticut to coddle eggs in a nest?
with a 2-minute visit to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website, it is legal to destroy Canada goose nests. It's an extremely easy process.
With eggs? With eggs?
Oh yes, absolutely, with eggs.
So you can addle the eggs and boom, hasta la vista.
Yes, you can addle them, you can destroy them, crush them, you can do whatever you want as long as you are registered with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And again, it takes 2 minutes on their website. Very simple process.
U.S.
You just have to sign up for it. That's all it's
Correct.
needed to be.
You need to sign up, get authorized, and then report excuse me, at the end of the year. Very simple
Huh.
process.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, what I was getting at was that, I would, if you folks are leaning towards trying to do something a little bit more drastic than just trying to shoo them away, is, between now and the spring, put together, a nice little page, 2-page informational thing. I can help you with that. Send it out to all the lakefront residents saying, hey, here's the problem. Here's what we are thinking of doing. And the first step would be to try to get everybody in the spring, in March, when the birds start coming back and prospecting for nest sites, to be diligent. And if you have geese on your property, make sure they don't stay. And you might have some folks, if they're, willing to do it, maybe some folks from the Conservation Committee or someone who's out looking at trails anyway, to spend a little time in late March and early April along the Inlet Creek that feeds the lake, coming out of the big swamp there off 66.
Utley.
I would suspect that some geese are nesting there. Once the goslings are born, they're bringing them to the lake. But if you can reduce the number of goslings, those geese are not going to spend time on the lake because they really don't have a reason to. That being said, if you're not successful with getting rid of families and they show up again next year, then if you've spent some time with us and developed a goose management plan, you could then contract with either the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Wildlife Services, or a private nuisance wildlife control officer who is certified by us, DEEP, to conduct goose roundups. And you could pay to have somebody come, round those birds up, euthanize them, and donate the meat to those that are less fortunate.
Good plan.
So
Um,
excuse me, it's Phyllis Dunn. So if we destroyed the nests before they actually produced,
Yep.
then we don't have to worry about any of that. Is that correct?
For that year, yes, because those adults, once they lose their nest, they typically will take off.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, good to
So
know.
they are not the transitional geese that come from Canada. They are the Canada geese that live here in our state.
Yes, we're talking about resident Canada geese. We have a very large population, unfortunately, in our state that's been growing for the last 30 years. We've kept them in check because we have very liberal hunting seasons in September that target these birds specifically. But there are so many places where hunting is just not feasible. Columbia Lake is one, and the birds, they can live up to 15, 16 years. They can be productive for 12 or 13 of those, and all it takes is a couple good years and you've doubled the local population.
Thank you.
Should have built a bigger wall.
Yeah.
Electrify
And,
it.
With a net on top.
So, the nest that they build, you're saying destroy the nest before they actually lay the eggs.
no,
Or
once they start
get the
laying
permit
eggs,
to destroy the eggs if you don't
Destroy
find
the
the
eggs.
nest.
right, once they start laying eggs, let them lay the eggs.
Yeah.
Then you can either go in and addle them, you can cover them in oil, or if you found the nest early, you can let it get almost to hatching and then destroy it.
Ugh.
If you destroy it too early, they're just going to re-nest. If you shake the eggs,
Well, that's what I was. Yeah.
yeah, you shake the eggs, you destroy the viability of those eggs, they'll keep sitting on them, and then nothing will happen, and then they'll bug out. That
Where do
being
you
said,
typically find a geese nest?
so geese typically nest within 100 yards of water. They like to nest under something, so they like to have overhead cover. Best way to find a nest is you're going to see one bird off by itself, okay? Standing guard, probably within 20 yards or so of the nest. You start seeing the single bird, and then you can just start searching around, and you'll find the other one probably incubating eggs, sitting right on top of that nest. But again, those birds will nest almost anywhere, so it's not like, oh, they only nest, in grass or underneath this type of shrub. They're very resilient. I mean, you'll find them nesting in almost anything. Find them nesting in abandoned red-tailed hawk nests, for instance. You see them nesting on rooftops. We see them nesting on rooftops in Farmington, in parking lots. I mean, they're very, very adaptive. So wherever they can find a place to make a living, they're going to do it.
So you need to chase them away, and then you could destroy the eggs if you.
Yeah, and again, I think Mary was talking about their aggressiveness. Yeah, certainly, the more time they spend around people, the more aggressive they become. Right?
Oh,
they lose
yes.
their fear of people.
Yeah.
But any reasonable attempt to shoo them off the nest, they're gonna get off that nest.
What is the incubation period? So in other words, if we go in
Approximately 28 days.
28
Oh,
days.
boy. Hey,
Okay. So you've got to get to that nest really early.
within a month, yeah.
So,
Right, and they typically, here in this state, they are typically starting to set up nests in late March.
Late March.
Okay.
20 or 30 years ago,
Okay.
Who's talking?
We can't hear you. You need to get closer to the mic.
this is Henry. Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Burke.
So I would say 20 or 30 years ago, we tried this under chick surfing, and we addled some eggs and was fairly successful with it. There is not, it's not an uncontroversial project because there are wildlife lovers and geese and gosling lovers around the lake, so there has to be an education process to it. For whatever reason, we got rid of resident geese, about 12 years ago, and now they're back for several years, and they're growing.
Yes, and so again, that's unfortunately a very typical pattern. You do a good job, you let your guard down, and again, they come back. They're very resilient animals. They're very smart, and they adapt very well to given situations.
They're also responsible for keeping some of the open spots in the lake on our warmer days, warmer winters, because they disturb the water enough that it doesn't freeze, and their droppings, instead of being on people's lawns, are all over the ice, and that's all just the wrong kind of stuff going into the lake when it
That's
thaws.
pure phosphorus. Yeah. Oh my God. All right. Min, the reason why I contacted you is we've had several members of our private association, the Columbia Lake Association, of which I'm an officer, as well as Henry is, approach us and say, can we do anything about this? I appreciate that LMAC also in the town is looking into this, and we would certainly want to partner in any approach, likely, less lethal. Well, there's no less lethal. Maybe finding nest and addling before we do roundups type of thing. But I think we should talk it through at the CLA. Our meeting is next week, and then come back to LMAC with some of the thoughts from CLA members, of which the vast majority live on the lake.
Yeah, again, I don't know, that seems like a very reasonable process. As the gentleman Henry was mentioning, getting out education to folks would be very good up front. I would also say, based on the bureaucracy, that if you are going to pursue egg addling with the thought that if that doesn't work, you're going to do a roundup, you need to be developing that plan concurrently, because it takes a while to get through our process and to also get the necessary federal permit to do something like this. And so, go ahead.
At what time of year does the roundup take place?
It would take place in probably the middle of June, middle to late June. That's when the birds lose their ability to fly.
Middle to late June. Okay.
So that's when you have to go to the nest before that?
Wouldn't it?
So you would want to be trying to find nests
Well, it's not-
and
Yeah, it
addle
sounds like
eggs
April, right?
in
In April.
late March through April.
Right.
If that
Yeah.
wasn't successful and goslings and adults started showing up, when the adults lose their ability to fly, which is going to be in the middle of June through early July, that's when you would be doing a roundup.
And what does a roundup really mean?
Since the birds are flightless, the birds are herded with small boats into a portable net and taken away and euthanized, and then the meat is processed and donated to those that are less fortunate.
Okay, so we understand how that moves. Okay.
Yeah, you understand how it moves, but I think what you need to understand that there's people out there who have verbally attacked people who own livestock, who talk about getting rid of a bobcat or a fox that have killed their livestock and their livelihood. So, you know, it is a very confrontational and
Yeah, controversial.
just
Emotional.
be careful. That's all I'm saying.
And I assume that's a pretty loud process, rounding them up. So it's going to draw a lot of attention.
Oh, people are
Oh,
going to
yeah.
know. There has to be.
I mean,
Absolutely.
those geese are going to make some noise and in the net. And I imagine it'd be very, very.
Well, it's not a very big to do. I mean, we go out as an agency and catch geese every year as part of our monitoring. We do like 50 something sites a year. But so the process is very simple and straightforward, but the controversy is immense. So as I mentioned earlier, this law, this ability to do this has been on the books since 2003. Columbia Lake, in the grand scheme of things, relative to the problems we see across this state, is nothing compared to a lot of other places in this state, or towns for that matter. To date, since 2003, we've done 5 roundups in this state. Okay? 5. My agency will not do roundups at places such as Sherwood Island, where we have 600 to 700 geese, and you can't walk that beach without seeing goose crap every square foot. The town of, because it's politically not the way they want to go. Nobody wants to make that tough decision. The town of New Britain developed a plan with us 6 or 7 years ago. They took it to the town council. They were ready to go. They lost by 1 vote. They didn't go through it. But what the town of New Britain has done is kind of under the radar. They've contracted out with Wildlife Services, which is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And over the last 5 years, they've removed over 400 geese from the city. And they're doing that.
Late March and early April?
No, this is all throughout the year. They have Wildlife Services going out and shooting 2 here, shooting 3 there, removing 5 here. So under the radar, and just slowly but surely, that goose population has been reduced.
Easier to do when you have a golf course.
Yes, exactly. Or, well, they're taking them from public parks as well. But, you know, it's very discreet. It's not, hey, we just removed 200 at a time, you know, 3 here, 4 there. Before you know it, hey, gee, there's less geese. Wonder what happened to them. But, you know, a private lake association, it's a little different story. You know, you might find consensus to do something like this. All I'm saying is, and I think the one gentleman was mentioning it, there's always going to be people that are dead set against the killing of wildlife.
Oh, I know one already.
Of course. Yeah, we understand.
You know, and, you know, unfortunately, with resident geese, particularly in a large water body like Columbia Lake, there is no scientific justification to say that 40 geese are impacting water quality. You know, you just can't pass the straight face test with that. This is an issue of nuisance. As somebody was mentioning, You know, you've got weekend residents that come home, there's goose crap everywhere. It's a pain in the ass.
Oh,
That's a
yes.
nuisance,
And
okay?
Town beach was a mess. The two big docks on the town beach,
Yes.
constantly being hit.
Yep. And you know, we do know that there are, you know, pathogens in goose poop. There's pathogens in deer poop, unfortunately, as well. And so, you know, you got geese on the lake, there's always the chance that someone's going to ingest water and, you know, get sick. But again, I mean, that's an argument you can make, but, you know, when it comes down to removing this type of problem, it's 99% you're dealing with a nuisance. And as long as you accept that, that's fine. I mean, again, you got to strike a balance, right? I mean, for the lake, I bet you 10 geese instead of 40 or 50 is fine. And so if you had 10 geese, hey, no problem. But you got 50, that's a problem.
So, Chairperson, my recommendation is to Stephen Everett. I know I have no business on this, but I think you should take the words and the guidance from our guest, Min, and not table this, but put it on a different agenda to discuss the options. And you know, because this is going to be, you have some time, you know, next spring. But put it together and figure out the plan that you want to bring to, I don't know, Lake Management or Columbia Lake Association, and then to the Board of Selectmen, if that's the way you have to do it. But I'd be interested in sitting down with a group of you and talking about this and coming up with a plan that benefits everybody but the geese, I guess. But
Well, let me ask another question. What is there in radius? We're probably at one end of the lake within a mile of Andover Lake. Are Andover geese coming to Columbia and vice versa? How geographically isolated can we consider ourselves to be?
Hey, that's a great question. So the research we've done with these geese, looking using marked geese with neck collars, is that by and large these birds are spending 7 miles or so radius is their home range. However, when you have places such as our lake, Andover Lake, in such close proximity, we've got Coventry Lake that's probably only 7 or 8 miles away as well. You don't see a lot of interchange at all between those groups of birds because they've got what they need where they are. And so, you know, we put out neck collars at Andover Lake maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I've never seen one of those birds at Columbia Lake. And so, you know, you remove the problem here by whatever means, you're probably buying yourself 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And then once you start seeing geese again, then you got to be diligent again. You know, again, as somebody was saying earlier, you didn't have birds for quite a while. And then about 10 years ago, you started seeing them, and now they've reached critical mass.
Min, I have a quick question. Mark here.
Yep.
To get up into that creek opposite Aridoni, I would imagine that takes somebody who's pretty skillful at navigating really tough waters with a kayak to find those nests. Is that something?
No. I would just have somebody or a couple people, you know, that want to go take a hike, just kind of walk.
Yeah, just walk.
Walk right up.
Yeah.
Walk right up there. I mean, that creek really is only like 3 or 4 feet wide.
Yeah.
On the north side of Erdoni, you know, as it tumbles down.
So you could do it from the ground and look for.
Oh
those
yeah,
nests.
absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, we've been up there
perfect.
often with our dogs. It's pretty easy to get to.
Absolutely. And again, you know, I don't know whether those birds are nesting in people's yards. You know, maybe they are.
I believe they are. Do they tend to go back to the same area if they come back?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Birds have extremely high fidelity to successful nest sites. I mean, maybe they're you know, nesting over on the camp, You know, where
That's
there's,
right.
you know, where there's less human presence, there's a lot more cover, there's woods. You know, they might be in there, but I'm sure that, yeah, some of them are nesting, you know, in people's yards
Mhm.
right around the lake.
Yeah, I've got some ideas on that. With what you were saying about Andover Lake, is that sufficient for us to think that the 1,000-acre swamp up there is a separate body, and if there's geese nesting up there, they're going to stay up there rather than come down here?
Oh yeah, they're not bringing goslings. They're not bringing goslings that far. No way.
Great.
Min, there was a product that was brought to my attention. I can't find the name of it now, that can be sprayed on a lawn. Unfortunately, you have to respray every time it rains. That
Yep.
seemed to have worked quite well. Are you familiar with what that product may be?
There's a number of products on the market.
I hear it's
For that.
very expensive.
It is expensive, and you know, again, it may keep birds off that lawn from feeding, but it's not going to keep them off of docks from loafing and crapping. It's not going to keep them off the beach, and all it's doing is really putting a dent in your wallet.
Okay, thank you.
So Mary, do we have a way to get a hold of Min if we have more questions after you discuss this more?
We sure do.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep. You've got my email. Woody's got my
I do,
cell
Min,
phone
thank
number.
you.
So,
Yeah.
Man, very
Thank you
informative.
very much.
Min, we can't thank you enough. You've
hey, no
been a
worries.
terrific resource, and I didn't realize you're right here in Columbia.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. I just live on the other side of 66, on the other side of the tracks.
Ooh.
So listen, we're having a picnic in June. You're more than welcome to attend. It's
There you go.
So before I go, just want to say to Steve and Woody, keep up the great work. The town is running well, and I am so glad that years ago I decided to not be on FIPAC. Have a great evening, all, and
Thank
thanks
you so
again.
much, Min.
Thanks,
And
man.
Thanks, man.
yeah, don't hesitate to call. That's what they pay me for.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, take care now.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. Who's running the meeting?
Do we have Mike Nazzo on tonight? I don't think we do.
No, Mike is not on.
Dan is the vice chair. Is he on?
No.
No.
Wait, Dan, no, David Vanderbilt's on.
Oh, Dan O'Neill? I
Dan
thought Bob
O'Neill
was
is not.
vice chair. Bob, you're not vice chair? You don't want to be vice chair.
Bob's on mute.
I am not the vice chair. Dan O'Neill is the vice chair.
All right, you go to secretary next?
Dan? Is Dan here?
No.
Dan's not here. Dan's not here tonight. Okay. So I guess you're going to have to go to me, guys.
Go for it, Phil.
So the meeting is ready to be hosted at 7:40 p.m. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. And do we have the minutes from the last meeting?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Second the motion.
Is that Bob Howell?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I
and who-
second the motion,
seconded-
Mary.
Mary seconded the motion. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Okay. And let's go on to the next issue that we have. And Mark?
You
Have to prove your motion.
got to vote on that.
Yeah, vote on it.
Oh, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody accepted?
Yes.
Yes.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Good.
None? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Alrighty, and here we go. Okay, sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing a lot of you, so bear with me on this. Okay, so the minutes of the next meeting have been accepted and everybody's approved. All right, so here we go. So Mark, are you going to talk tonight about where we are as a guest speaker, or are you going to come in as part of the entire group?
Well, I'm representing the town administrator for whatever you would like me to talk about.
Okay,
And Stephen's on as well, since we've been working so closely with everybody on marine patrol issues and algae and tree removal. So we're
we're ready to go.
ready.
Okay. Steve, could we talk about tonight as we start off the meeting? Can we talk tonight about what's going on with Marine Patrol? That's been a real big issue in the last week. So it's on the agenda, and can we talk about where we are on that and where we're going on that?
Well, absolutely. You know, last year we got involved. We got a lot of phone calls. We got a lot of people who were different input on how Marine Patrol was, how the lake people was viewed, how everything. And the bottom line is, that lake is for everybody who resides in Columbia. And I'm not saying that anybody on here doesn't realize that and doesn't believe the same thing, okay? So as a community, I decided, and probably wrongly so, spoke to Mark Volza after Bob Powell decided to try and pre-COVID had a very big trip plan and wasn't going to be involved. I thought that moving Mark to the lake and the director of recreation, getting him an assistant, and putting them down there to help with the lake and gate management was a good thing. I will tell you, I said I want safety with a smile. And to my fault, it has probably backfired a little bit. I did not view the training syllabus for this year's lake and gate patrol. My fault. I did not attend the training because it was virtual. My fault. And I say my fault because as the captain of a ship in the Navy, you can go to bed, but if the ship runs aground at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still at fault because the people you put in charge are supposed to be trained to do the job. So in the last few weeks, we've met with Mary and we've met with Carmen Vance. I've seen your emails, I've seen your communications, and I take it very seriously that I am not going to continue to put up with what I feel is less than adequate gate guard and boat patrol. Not because they're not, well, I will tell you because they're not trained well enough. So I am, through Mark Walter, our town administrator, we're more involved. We meet with Mark Volza probably every other day to go over things. And I think that he understands what I'm looking for. We're making some changes. The gate is to be closed at all times and have somebody, we're putting in driveway sensors. If somebody comes down there, it's going to ring in the building. Somebody should be out there, except if it's 95 and you're baking in the sun and nobody's coming. I understand, but we're going to have a way that they can be notified, even if they're in the building, to open the gate for people, to see that people are there, in and out of the water. We're going to retrain people on the water in communications, in ways of doing things. I think it's gotten better in the last week or two. It's not perfect, but we are policing our own, that they're trained better and doing a better job. I will take your comments in your emails of what you see, but I ask you to realize there's two sides to everything that happens out there. Like breakdown with the boat, that's why they're sitting in a position for over an hour. What I will not take is somebody telling me that the gate person was doing their job. And if I look at a film and they're not doing their job, I'm not defending my personnel. I'll defend them if they have an absolute viable reason for what has happened. But I gotta tell you, I do love the lake. I'm not on the lake. I rarely go and get into the lake because time and all that. I love the fact that we have the lake. I'm serious about the cleanliness of the lake. And I'll take your phone calls. I'll take your communications. I want the lake to be better because I continue to read about other towns who have to put in 100,000, 150,000 yearly to keep stuff at bay, not even eradicate it, but keep it at bay. We're moving to do better. And I realize that you want to scream at somebody, it's right here. I get it. But I continue to ask you to please call me. Don't, call me or send me an email. My cell phone's listed on the website. I take the calls, believe me. Help me to be better. And don't take it out on those people. If you have instructional communications, if you have constructive criticism, I ask you also to be friendly and communicate it as a member of the lake community, as a member of the Columbia community, what you're looking at. And, some of these people are younger. Let's face it, the world has changed in how people deal with things. So I ask you to, be respectful, and I ask them to be respectful too. I won't put up with disrespect going back the other way. But we're trying to do better. And I know Mark Walter and we talk all the time. The last thing I want is him to say, did you see the email? And, I hang my head and I go, I saw it. But, we need to have another meeting. So, but we will have those meetings. We will be better. So that's a long drawn out thing. You got questions for me, please ask. I'm here to answer them, and I'm here to make sure that the lake is as pristine as, and as gorgeous as everybody wants it to be.
One other thing to add to what Stephen said, we are upgrading the phone system for Marine Patrol. So it's a two-way phone instead of a receive text only without an alert. So it was a very inexpensive phone system we originally had, but it looks like we need a much better published cell phone that people can actually talk to Marine Patrol and get a response back when they need help. So that's in the works.
Steve, just one feedback that I'd like to give you is some of the people that have called me have asked that could Marine Patrol just have a number, and I know you just said that, Mark, but could they have just a number that they can call and say, here are some of the things that are happening? Not necessarily does the Marine Patrol have to be on the lake, but could they just notify somebody that things that they see or situations that are occurring so that...
Well, I don't mind if they do it while they're occurring. What I don't want is calling the Lake Patrol to talk about things that happened a day or two ago and pull their attention away from their job they're currently doing. So if they see something that's unsafe on the lake, absolutely. I would love to have them have the number and say, hey, listen, I see somebody over here who's, pulling 3 people on a tube and there's 1 person on a jet ski type of thing. So absolutely.
If you just want to leave information, say, hey, this is something I think needs to be dealt with, that should go straight to Mark Volza, the rec director, and then it's up to him to deal with it. So that's fine too.
And if you don't hear back within 24 hours, you're to call me.
That's never been an issue, at least in the 4 or 5 weeks I've been dealing with Mark Volza. His response is
good, because if I get those, okay, good, because if I get those calls, it's not going to be pretty.
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'd love to work for you. Hey, Phyllis,
yeah.
To build on what you just said, when Carmen and I met with Mark Volza, I think, Mark, you were there, and Steve, you were there. I think Mark Volza is very open to give me feedback at either the email of rec director at Columbia or whatever, or his number. And he's given me both of his numbers. And the Marine Patrol should be, something's happening right now. Can you come over and fix it? I think there have to be two separate communication vehicles or numbers, because the young kids and or gentlemen and or women really should deal when they're on the lake with what's happening now.
Yes.
Versus take a phone call of what happened yesterday.
I'm going to the
Mary.
board. Go ahead.
Mark,
Mary,
Walter, you said you're updating the phone system? You're going to be updating the phone system. I would suggest that you keep the number that everyone already knows for
Yes,
Marine Patrol. I mean,
we'll
everyone
keep the number,
around
just,
lake-
They are.
Yeah.
we'll just get a
According to
smartphone.
Mark. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
hey,
All right, a
Mary,
couple of other,
do we ever
Go ahead.
post the Marine Patrol rules in anywhere and keep it in people's faces? In print?
Yeah. Yeah.
When?
Education is critical. And that's a very good point, Steve. We've gotten
I'm
ripples
just saying,
out.
we don't print the rules anywhere. And I don't know about anybody else that's in this meeting tonight, but I've seen a lot of boats that I have never seen before. And I don't know if it's people upgrading their boats or there's just more people putting their boats on the lake. I don't know. But I do know there's really nothing to post any of the jet ski rules or any of that anywhere down there. And I never see it anywhere.
Yeah.
All I know is unless you know that, unless you know the rules from being in Lake
There was
Nantucket,
talk. There was talk about handing out the trifold to everybody that was inspected at the gate. I don't know if that happened this year or not.
Yes, they did.
Okay, well, that trifold has all the rules and regulations, the town
And-
regulations.
And that's a
Well,
separate
I
issue,
put three
and we'll
boats-
get
I
to it.
I put 2 boats in the water and I was not handed anything. Just to
Okay.
be clear.
My understanding was they were handed out. But we can,
okay.
that's something from an educational point of view and working with the town in the CLA. We've gotten ripples out, we've gotten waves out. We try to repeat the rules. Not everybody's a CLA member. I actually got a recommendation kayaking the other day that we reprint this when we all agree to what this is, which is the town rules and regulations, and that we go around and we put them on every dock. So every person knows, because there are a
Yep.
number of people who are not CLA members.
Well, I
So
just
the other-
know a few weeks ago I was out on the lake. I haven't been out there much this year, but there was 3 kids on a tube, and the tube was designed for 3 people. It had 3 seats on it. And I know that you can only have a maximum of 2 because I know the rules, but if somebody comes down and gets invited down and they're using somebody's boat, I don't know. I just know you don't see the rules out there other than getting yelled at by Lake Patrol when you're doing something wrong. Or you know the rules because you're a CLA member or whatever your avenue is for knowing the rules.
Okay. All right.
Speaking of that trifold, I think there's an issue with that because it was formatted over the winter, and I think some items that were in the previous one were eliminated in the new one. So the format changed somewhat. So I'm not sure it's as current or as accurate as it should be.
Mark, Walter, you're going to put that for action, please.
That is an action, and we'll handle that when this season's almost over. But that'll be addressed for next season, and handing out the brochures with boating rules versus beach rules. All that'll be looked at. It might be separate trifolds because you can't get everything on a trifold. It gets too small.
Yeah, I think all those things are town regulations, which if there's any changes to them, I think the Board of Selectmen has to make those.
Correct.
Correct.
And certainly LMAC would like to work if there are recommendations to make changes, because these are town ordinances and or regulations.
Excellent. Okay, do we have any other committee communication that we have to discuss tonight? any other communications that have come in from anybody? No? Okay. So should we move on to the dam? Dave Vanderbilt, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so how are we at the dam, Dave?
Today we're -5 inches. Last Wednesday when I checked, we're -4, so we lost the inch of water this week. The water temperature varies where you are. It's 82 to 86. And both weep holes are flowing pretty nicely, 5 to 10%, both of them. And I'm not sure if it's anyone knows, but I guess George Murphy retired, so probably going to change things up. Mark might have more to say about that, right?
On the agenda.
Yeah, we do have, what is it, Andy Andrews that's coming in, Mark, is that correct?
Yes, Andy is the acting Public Works Director. So he probably needs to get together with Dave and Dan and make sure we have a clear communication pathway.
Yeah, we'll make sure he gets the information. We have a whole 5-6 pages of information of what we do and how we handle it.
I think from a legal standpoint, he is the gatekeeper. So
Yes, he
somewhere it's got to be noted that he is the official gatekeeper.
Andy
He's
Andrews.
the gatekeeper,
Yes.
and Dan and myself are assistants.
Correct.
That is correct. And when are you planning on to get together with him? Is there any date at all?
I haven't planned anything yet. I'll get a hold of Dan and I'll get together and I'll make sure something goes on this week.
Okay,
Thank
can
you.
you just send an email over to, let us know what's
Yep.
going on?
Yep. All right.
Thank you, Dave, for attending to that, because who knows when we're going to have a next hurricane, and we've got
Yeah.
to be synchronized beforehand.
We were at -4 when the hurricane was supposed to hit, and I talked to a few people, and everyone thought it was a good idea to just leave it alone, and it was a good idea.
It was very good.
Yeah, because the
Yep.
lake is really low right now.
Yeah, I'm hitting the rock in front of my place right now.
Okay, any other communications about the dam from anyone? Nope. How about water quality? Nothing on water quality?
Phyllis, I sent you a report from Ecosystems.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I can give you a quick, just 1, 2, 3. The lake water clarity is very good and remains very good at 5.4 meters, which is about 15 feet. A month ago, it was about 18. They're saying the pattern is typical of the northeastern lakes. The pigment, in terms of checking for algae, remains stable throughout the end of July. This report was July 30th. The phosphorus, evaluated through June 8th, remained normal. And yet we know on August 3rd, we've had cyanobacteria, which did come back positive for cyanobacteria blooms. And we saw more over this weekend, although knock on wood, no one has reported anything since Sunday. So the Courtman and the ecosystem assistant, Ben, felt that the stirring up of the lake, in particular over at Woodland, with everything that happened during the storm, may have just taken algae off the bottom, and now it may have settled, and let's keep our fingers crossed that it stays on the bottom.
Yeah, let's do.
There you have it.
Okay, any other questions about that or where we are? No comments? Okay. How about fishing? Anybody heard anything about fishing?
Yeah. Excuse me. Actually, my neighbor just caught last week a 21-inch smallmouth bass.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It was a beautiful fish.
Wow.
I know, 21 inches. That's a nice
Wow.
sized fish.
That's
And,
huge.
And actually, he's been catching quite a few bass. Not all that size, but that was quite a catch.
That's huge.
Wow.
Yeah, especially for this time of the year with the water being so warm. Usually the bass go down deep, but they're still active, I guess.
The eagles are jealous.
They're coming down and catching them. They're catching all the others.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. There's
Anything
still some good
with-
ones out there.
Anything with access and safety and regulations, and of course that includes Marine Patrol. Anything happening there that anybody has to report? No?
Mary, did you get Mark Volza's stats? I had him copy you and Mike Nazzo.
Yes, Mark Folzer did provide a monthly. Phyllis, if I didn't send it to you, I will. He's
That
going
would
to,
be good, Mary. Yeah.
on a monthly basis. They handed out 185 stickers. 160 kayak, paddle boards, canoes entered the lake throughout the month. In July, they towed 6 people. There were 32 warnings issued. The main one was speeding, too close to shore, dock, and jet skis, illegal maneuvering. They did turn away 4 people, 2 kayaks and 2 boats for over horsepower, and 2 kayaks for non-residents.
Yeah, if you would just send that over to me, Mary, that would be appreciated.
I'll send that over to you. Okay.
Awesome. And how about watershed management? We're okay with that? Is everybody okay with what was going on? I know it was a bad weekend last weekend and those waves were hitting that dam, but how are we all doing? Any questions about the watershed
Wind's
management
blowing
plan?
the right way for me.
Sorry, guys, I didn't hear you.
Nothing from me, Phyllis.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Everybody else okay with watershed management plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything on the storm culverts? Nothing? Okay. Dam emergency plan, we're okay. How about permit reviews? We have anything on the permit reviews? No new permit reviews?
No new applications yet.
Okay. Perfect. Okie dokie. How about old business? Where are we on old business? Paul, we just want to say thank you very much for being a new member of the LMAC group. And we hope you're really kind of diving into everything that we're doing out here and learning everything that we're trying to do for everybody on the Lake Association. So thank you very much for being part of that. We really appreciate it. So thanks for being on board, Paul.
I'm absorbing it.
And okie
Welcome
dokie.
aboard.
How about any other discussions we have now? Where are we now, guys?
I have one thing to add. We had hired Anchor Engineering to do a proposal on a system to turn over the water from the bottom of the lake
Yep.
and try to avoid this cyanobacteria. So Anchor did get a proposal. I copied it to Mary and Mike from hydro data that would go through them to map the bottom of the lake, specifically near the dam where it's the deepest, and provide a mapping to Dr. Cortman, who would then determine the volume required to turn over the lake, and then that would then generate the actual engineering drawings and quotes to create the device to do it. So to actually do the survey is $5,300 to get the whole ball rolling. So we probably have to discuss how much money we have for both Dr. Cortman and for different projects involving water quality in the lake.
Do we have an
Mark,
idea what it's going to cost?
5,400 was it?
Well, 5,300 just gets the ball rolling,
Okay.
so that it can be engineered. That's the first step, the survey.
So we have no clue if it's what kind of money we're talking at all.
Well, but that $5,000 is a worthwhile investment because getting the
Can't hear you, Henry.
we lost you, Henry.
that $5,000 is a good investment because getting the bathymetry of that end of the lake and knowing where the deepest spot is going to be valuable for our own testing and so forth. And from what Dr. Cortman had said, this is a very passive system. It's not expensive. I don't think we can get, if we take time to try to get an estimate of the whole ball of wax, we're going to have missing pieces and we're not really going to be able to put it together. I think hopefully it's something that can gain momentum, and we ought to try to find the $5,000 to get it started.
Mark, is that just a map by the dam, or is that to map the entire lake?
No, not the entire lake, mainly
By
the deepest part by the dam.
Down by the dam.
They felt that mapping the entire lake would be too expensive, and
You don't need
you're
it to
mainly
be
trying to figure out how to get the deepest part of the lake over the.
So Mark, does that go from like the Wells Cottage over to where David, oh good God, I can't think of his last name. I'm sorry. He's a real estate agent.
Holcroft.
Thank you. Does it run from there in the cove?
That
Hold
would be the
on.
whole cove.
In that area, wait. Haven't read it all. I just,
I read it earlier. I'm reading again.
yeah. In an area of the dam along roughly 8 cross sections of single beam frequency. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah, survey depths will
Vertical
be
view.
collected. Yeah, the survey depths will be collected in a deeper water areas greater than 18 feet except near the dam. I don't know if I
Except
have.
near the dam?
Yeah, which is greater than. They know that is. But they're going to do that too. I know they are.
So where would the actual siphon go? Would it go closer to the gate where we are now, or would it be further out by Holcroft?
It would have, wherever the deepest part of the lake is where we suck the water from.
It would pick it up from there, and then it would take it over the spillway.
Correct. And Cortman said this is part 1. Cortman is also taking data every month to measure oxygen and temperature so that he can, with that data, plus what he gets from this report from the town engineer and this company, be able to calculate, quote unquote, different flushing rate scenarios. And then that data will be where we engineer or where we put the pipe. So he's, in addition, he needs the temperature and oxygen at depths to support a permit acquisition, because we would have to get a permit from deep for this to happen. And he's relatively confident that this can be done and that this would be very helpful, because he is calling the cyanobacteria bentic. Bentic meaning it's on the bottom, as I understand it. Henry, you probably know more about this than I.
That's correct.
Okay. So Cortman is saying this first step is crucial in order to accurately place that siphon system. And then he'd have to do feasibilities depending on where all these depths are.
So where we are right now is we're still under a situation where uncovering what we need to really do to move forward with the siphon.
You're right. We're taking the first step to map the depth of where that siphon potentially could be over in the woodland, in what I call the dam area or cove area. And with that, then he has to take that to do further calculations. If I put a pipe in here, what are the flushing rates? How do I get it up to the spillway, et cetera, et cetera. And he needs further, which he's doing already, and it's in our budget, data to be able to get a permit acquisition from DEEP. That's the report he gave me on Monday, August 10th.
I don't believe we have any money in our budget for this at the present time.
I don't think we do, Henry.
So I would ask Mark and Steve whether there is another line item in the town budget that could support this, or how we might go about funding this $5,000 to get this kick-started.
A bake sale.
Yeah.
I thought we had an extra amount of money in there, Mark, that I thought you put from like the 20 plus. Wasn't there?
I'll look at what you have, but I think since weed control not as bad as it was, I don't think we carried that over this year. to the extent it used to be.
Correct.
And I do have an engineering budget for the town. I offered to help the school with an engineering project that they got in a bind. The board of selectmen agreed to help the school fund some engineering, but how much we have and whether I'll take it to the board to do a transfer and cover this engineering as well.
I think we
in
could,
your line.
I think worst case, we could partially cover some of this, Phyllis.
Correct.
The budget is 21,000, and Carl, you may have the information, but as I recall, 14,000 is Cortman, 3,000 is outside analytical lab, we're at 17, 2,000 is Phragmites, give or take, 1,000 to 2,000, and then you left in an additional 2,000, Mark. So we might be able to partially cover some of that.
Yeah, that's the numbers that I have, Mary.
Let us
You
take a
talk-
look at it.
Are you
We can
talking
go
from the
on.
Lake Association, Mary?
God, no. I'm talking about LMAC budget.
Oh, okay. I'm just going, okay, excuse me. What did I read here?
You want
Okay.
money from the Lake Association? You got to see Mark DeRozier. Good luck.
Okay.
Mark Walter, let's talk about this tomorrow. We'll pull Bev in and see what we can do
Right, we can do that.
Thank you.
and take it out of contingent or something.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and on any old business, everybody all set where we are right now? Any old business that we have to talk about as far as structural guidelines and so forth, Henry?
No.
Okay, so we're clear on that. All right. Any new business popped up?
Well, I hate to bring up a topic, but I believe Mr. Everett suggested we bring this to LMAC and maybe we put it on for future meetings. The Erdoney Road Beach. There have been a number of issues recently. I think hot weather, COVID, more boats in lakes, mooring right next to a restricted swimming area, and many more people using that beach than probably social distancing and masking would allow. I just put it out there, Mark, because we spoke about it briefly and you suggested I bring it to LMAC. I think it's going to be a very lengthy conversation. I think we need to research it and understand the history and the background and then figure out, is there or should there be anything that we do?
I think we should start by looking at our own minutes because I think we made recommendations to the selectmen on this before, and that those recommendations were not politically favored, and so no action was taken. But I think we should not look to reinvent the wheel and at least start with where we were at and re-examine that. So maybe Phyllis could look that up from a couple of years back.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Henry.
I will, Henry. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was, we talked about the issues on Erdoney Road and the beach. So I will pull those up, definitely. Thank you. And I'll refer back to those.
Mary, when you say moorings near the swimming area, do you mean boats are anchoring up close to the swimming area, or are there actual moorings there?
No, boats are anchoring. Literally, one boat was in the swimming area and then it went outside of the swimming area. Now we've consistently had 2 to 3 boats that are consistently well within 100 feet of a restricted swimming area, which is a state law that you cannot even moor within 100 feet of a swim area. So the Marine Patrol, thank you, has been very diligent and has had those boats move right along recently in the last week, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I had a mother screaming that her daughter almost got hit when a gentleman literally drove his boat right through the ropes. Judgment.
Yeah, it's very bad over there.
Judgment.
Yeah.
You know, it's Stephen, and I want to speak on this. The problem is that there is little recourse that I know of. And even when we turn these into the state police, it is of little consequence to these people who are not obeying the rules or don't know the rules, but ignorance is not an excuse. if somebody gets hit with a propeller, there's going to be hell to pay, and the town's going to be part of that. I will tell you that I am in favor of educating personnel, and then if they do it a second or third time, I have no problem pulling their lake permission. I don't have a problem with it, but you know, I'm for one, safety first, and I'm not pussyfooting around type of thing. So we'll need to look into that.
Well, one of the things that I think COVID has brought on is that there's more anchoring out of boats for purposes of getting away from the beach and so forth, and that is fine. But I think the Marine Patrol needs to look at the public safety aspects of where people are anchoring. If they're anchoring in a narrow channel, probably not a good idea. If they're blocking smooth flow of traffic through the cove, probably not a good idea. But we don't have any really anchoring regulations or ordinances that stop people from anchoring anywhere. It's just a matter of public safety.
Okay. Well, I'll meet with Mark Volza and we'll talk about some of this stuff because, you know, if it was one of our children that got hit by a propeller or something, we would want swift action and would wonder what went wrong. And I don't want anything to go wrong. So I was part of that discussion where I'd love to have LMAC take a look at it and see, you know, I've been over there in the last couple of weeks. I've been over there and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I'm not even sure why this is a swimming area. There's no beach to speak of. It's a 3 foot from the road to the water's edge. It's not like it's a picnic area or something.
Exactly.
The traffic is always the road traffic is always a hassle. People are going too fast and it's too tight for traffic and people walking and trying to unload there and everything else. I'm not even sure why it's a swimming area.
Well, Steve, it came about from the people that live across the lake there on the other side of Arizona years ago. And they always had
it was just an accommodation
to the lake. Yeah, and it was always an accommodation.
It was strictly just an accommodation, and then it kind of evolved into putting up safety ropes, and now probably because of the safety ropes, you know, other people are using it as well. But it was strictly for about 4 or 5 houses over there.
It's a public safety risk both on land and on water.
It's water access for people up and down Erdoney Road is what it is.
Yeah, I get it.
But
so's the beach for people who live on 87 and Doubleday and Pine Street and Hunt Road, and it's called the beach.
There is no legal right to access on Erdoney Road.
That's true. It was for pedestrian use, and my understanding that dates back to farmers when they brought their horses down. Well, okay, we're in the 21st century now, and I think we just have to look at it and come up with.
I know that the traffic commission is looking at speed bumps over there on that road.
Yeah, I will pull up our minutes from the meeting on the issues of that on Arizona Road, because we've had several over the years, and literally several over the years. So I'll pull them up and send them to you, Mark, so you have them, and then you can share them with Steve.
And we can put it on for old business for September.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Phyllis, if you could send those out, because even to newer members, I don't think we've talked about it in the 3 or 4 years I've been on LMAC.
I'm
So
sure we haven't. No, I'm sure we haven't.
Understand the history, because I have many neighbors who are going to question this.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
of course, the problem is
I'll go back and research that and pull them all up so that we have it. Okay. Awesome.
You know what? For the first part, let's just get LMAC to provide history and stuff to us, because I will tell you, if LMAC makes a recommendation that we do away with that area, it's not going to sit well with people who use it, and it's going to be Those
Thank
who are
you.
on the lake, once again, are privileged. So I'm just asking initially, let's look at the history, and I want to take a look at the safety issues over there. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, any other old business that we have to discuss? Anybody? No? Okay. And where we are now is new business. Do we have any new business that we need to bring up for the topic?
I
I
just
did
had
have-
one thing. Phyllis, this
Yeah,
is
go
Carl.
right ahead, Carl.
Mary, where do we stand with, and maybe Mark, you know this, with the data, the historic data from Cortman? Or
I'm in the same email he sent me Monday on this plan for mapping. He said he is putting everything on a jump drive, and he has a plethora, a lot of data, but he is doing that, and he will be providing it to the town.
Okay.
That's
All right.
where we're at.
If I can help organize that, Mark, at all, you let me know. I think I'm planning on a ton of data, and I think what we'll have to do is create a template for specific categories of data for each year and see the trends from year to year. But we'll see what he gives us, and I'll be glad to help out, Mark, if you need some help
Great.
with that.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you,
And Carl, thank you for that. I've already offered that to Jennifer also, Mark. So she knows when it comes in. She said, how am I going to organize this? That was her first question. And I said, with help, we'll figure it out.
Definitely.
Perfect. There is one question I have that has come to me, and I think we need to resolve this, and I know I emailed a few of you, but I think people need to understand that under the situation, if a tree falls in the lake, whose responsibility is that? And maybe we can put that in a pamphlet. Maybe we can just somehow communicate this to members, Mary. I don't know. But they call me and they ask me, Phyllis, what do I do if my tree falls in the lake? And it's always been the fact that if the tree falls in the lake, it's the town responsibility. So I don't know how we want to address this, but I do think we need to address it.
My experience a couple of years ago is that one of my trees did fall in the lake. It's when Jonathan Louise was the town administrator. I contacted him. He contacted the town's insurance company. The town's insurance company said that all insurance companies have an understanding that wherever a tree falls, it's that person's responsibility. It doesn't matter where it starts, where the tree was rooted, wherever it lands, that property owner is responsible for the removal. So if
I
it's
can't hear you.
Yeah, we lose you, Mark. And we lose you, Bob, quite a bit.
But I think we got the gist of it. It's
Yeah.
the,
Let me try it
you
again.
basically said that. Go ahead, Bob.
Let me try it again. When
You're going in and out.
Yeah.
Who pays?
Bob,
That's what I
Bob,
want to
you're
know. Who
saying
pays?
Jim, why don't you
the
read?
responsibility, the responsibility, at least, Bob, tell me if I got this right, is where the tree lands. Whoever owns the property that the tree lands on is responsible to remove it for the financial cost. Okay.
There's one other aspect to that, though. If obviously a tree is dying on the edge of your property, it behooves you to take it down prior to falling in the lake
Sure.
and becoming a major undertaking to remove a tree. Now, obviously, with a tornado, perfectly healthy trees get launched into the lake. But if it's a dead ash, we might have to get to the point where we do a whole survey of the lake and identify homeowners of trees that the town is concerned about.
Right. If your dead ash falls on somebody else's house or car, it may be that person that has to clean it up, but you've got liability for the fact that your tree fell on their car or their house.
Yes.
So there's every reason for the landowner on land that has the tree that's in danger to get it taken care of.
Yeah.
An example, my neighbor just came to me and said, Mark, that your giant ash, all those branches are over my cars where I park. And I said, all right, I'll take it down right away. So I immediately contracted and had it taken down because I was now on notice that my
Right.
tree, if it landed on his brand new car, was going to be my problem.
Yeah, if you can prove that you knew about it,
Right.
that's where you have leverage.
Right.
So is there something that we can put out either maybe from Mary under the CLA or under the town to let people know? Not that it's going to happen all the time, but I think there has to be clarity here because people are really concerned about what happens when this occurs.
Henry, can you put something together that I can jointly send out as a communication from the town or Ripples, however you want to do it?
Not in the short term, but at some point.
Well, yeah, at some point. I hope we don't
Yeah.
get another storm.
I mean, I think the wise thing is to just be smart. If you got a tree on your property and it's in trouble, deal with it. Don't wait for it to fall in the lake.
But even if we send something out even through the CLA and say something silly like that, if you got a tree on your property that's weak or something, or even a communication that says, our trees do this versus this, you know, whose responsibility is it? Just to let them know because they don't know. And I think that would be, I think it would just.
Tell them to call their homeowner's insurance agent. Literally, that's the person that they should get advice from.
I know, but the town owns
Right.
the property under the lake, and that's the real issue here. So when the tree hits the lake, it's not their responsibility. Now it becomes the town's responsibility.
Well, let's go to deep. It's in the water. It's
Yeah.
deep.
Unless they
Yeah,
knew
right.
about it.
Tell them about Mono Pond. Exactly. If they knew about it, they should have taken care of it.
They knew about it. Right. And then the liability can switch back.
Yeah, I know. I
So we
know
got to
what
be
they do
careful
about
how
it.
we word it because people would just
Yeah,
think they'll just wait for the town.
it's squirrely, and I don't think we want to put anything out officially from LMAC or anybody else because somebody's going to turn around and use it against you. But right, it could be the town's ability to have to take it out, but the town could turn around and deliver the bill for taking it out, saying we just removed your dead tree from our water. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, but it was a cost to us. Here it is. It may be the responsibility, but you know, if you were negligent in having that tree there in the first place, the negligence can be lost back.
Right.
So, there is no clear
Right,
answer.
I got a twist to that, Henry. I just want to bring it up because it matters here. I have, this is not on the lake. I'm sure everybody knows about the Hop River, and I own quite a bit of frontage on the Hop River. And there's several live trees that are severely weakened or chewed up from otters and stuff like that, but they're live trees, and working with the town, the live trees I had to leave. The ones with leaves on them stayed. And in the storm, several of them came down. So what do you do about that? There's a situation like that. Because you have to get a permit, or you have to go to the town to take trees down on the lake. And if they're not healthy trees, but they're alive, there's a line there.
Mr. Harrington,
Well, it goes back to the notification.
wait.
Yeah.
Mr. Harrington, I love you. You know I love you, but this is not a lake issue.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm just saying we're talking about trees. So
Yeah.
I think it's smart that the town does go around. What I'm getting at is I think it's smart that maybe LMAC does, we go around the lake, everybody can do it in their own boat. Look at the trees around the lake and say, hey, you know, that one is alive, but it's dying and there's a potential for it to fall in the lake. Maybe.
I've already asked Mark Walter and Mark Bolza that we're going to take the tree warden out with us and travel the lake and do a survey.
Yes, that's one thing that, yeah, that we should recognize we do have a tree warden for this purpose.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, I didn't know that.
We have two of them.
There's a lot of sick trees on the lake.
Yeah.
There certainly are, but it would be helpful if that tree warden could identify and let the owners know.
And he has to do it from the lake because he doesn't have permission to go on everybody's property.
Oh, come on down.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, you know I'm right.
Yeah, I know.
Because nobody wants to hear that they have $1,000 bill to take down trees.
I don't disagree, but if they get a little letter saying, hey, this is questionable, maybe they can plan for
Exactly.
it. Responsible
Yeah.
people would do
Absolutely.
that.
I'd rather plan for it than have it fall on somebody and then I get sued.
I know.
Absolutely.
I mean, to the
I
extent we
had
can.
my trees surveyed in my yard over here on the lake, and I took a whole bunch of them out. And when they cut them down, they looked like perfectly normal trees, but when you cut the stumps, they were completely hollow inside.
Exactly. Yep. We had one
every-
taken down. Same thing.
Yeah. But I know of trees just in my general area, not in my yard, but there's a lot of them around here that are sketchy, dangerous.
Yeah.
The only thing I have under new business is that I've had a couple of complaints to me personally about the horsepower of some of our boats on the lake. I just think that from the situation, either from LMAC or from the town, we need to double check on what the horsepower is on some of these boats that are A, coming into the lake, and B, already in the lake. Just because I think that people are complaining. So I'm really not in a position to accept their complaints, and I tell them they have to go to the town, but there are people that are concerned about the horsepower on the lake. So however we want to handle that, or however you want to address that, that's what's come to me.
Isn't that done when we launch boats?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, when the boats are surveyed, aren't they? I mean, when they get their sticker,
right.
isn't that checked?
No, they're not, and that's the problem. My understanding is that they're not being checked.
Well, it does say on the registration. It does say on the registration, it's the size, the horsepower, and also the cylinders. If it's a 6-cylinder, you know it's too big.
But the boats that have keys have not been inspected.
That is correct, Bob.
But ours was.
Well, and also one of the bigger culprits here are jet skis, and jet skis can be launched from person's property and doesn't have to go over to the beach to launch.
Yeah, but also, is that an assumption on these people that the horsepower is too big, or is it just, or do they know?
No, it's not an assumption. They know that their horsepower is larger than it was supposed to be, and they're saying that it is not being checked at the town beach because they already have a key. So therefore, the people can automatically come in and do whatever they want to do. I just want to bring it up so that we have something to talk about and look at in the future here, because it's not only been one person, it's been a couple of people that have said to me, how do we address it?
But I will say, okay.
Jimmy?
Go ahead.
But even with the key, unless you're on the lake before or after the boat patrol leaves, and they don't see a sticker, they do pull you over. They'll come over and ask, because I did get inspected, and I didn't get my sticker on in time, and I happened to be driving it, and they came over and I showed them I was just negligent in putting it on fast enough. So they, unless they're on the water, I know the boat patrol does look for that color. So you would think that eventually they would get caught if they were on during the day.
But everyone knows what the Marine Patrol hours are.
True. So I'm saying unless they're only using their boat on the off hours. And that's
it wasn't so much that, it's whether their horsepower was actually approved. So in other words, if I went through the mastery test, I'll use that for the town to say, okay, I understand what I'm supposed to do to put my boat in. And then I go and I put my boat in because I now have a key, because I've passed all my tests. And then I put my boat in the lake, and nobody checks on the horsepower of my boat that I'm putting in. I've passed my test, but now I'm going through and I'm putting my boat in on the horsepower. They're not checking the horsepower and it goes in the lake. Is that an issue? And that's.
Yes, it's a violation of a town ordinance. You don't
Right.
get a free pass.
But are we
No,
talking, are
that's
we
not-
talking a lot of people? Are we talking, do you have specific, measurable,
Must be few.
relevant, trackable data that's
Well-
saying this boat is over the horsepower, this jet ski is over the horsepower? I just don't see it across the lake.
I
I
don't
think
see it across the lake. I see it as hearsay, Mary. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you that
Yeah.
there's hearsay out there that some boats are not being checked for horsepower. That's all.
I think one of the.
I know of one. I know of one specific one that's over horsepower. It was over horsepower last year. The town sent them a letter telling them to take it off the lake. It's back on the lake
And
this
it's
year.
on the lake?
On the lake this year.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep.
Well, that's an issue right there. That's a specific,
Yeah.
relevant, trackable issue where that motorboat should not be on the lake, or jet ski, or whatever it is.
I think we talked about this last meeting or the meeting before, and one of the things we talked about.
We're losing you, Henry.
I said I think we talked about this in one of our recent meetings, and one of the things we had recommended to Mark Walter was to change the key application to require a copy of the registration of the boat that's going to be using the key at the time the key is given, and make it clear that the key is given for that registration. So if they want to cover multiple registrations, they got to send in multiple registrations. And at least that way, as Jim pointed out, you can check and see what the horsepower is.
I'll make sure that happens. I'm not going to say, I know we do check horsepower and I do get copies of registrations. I need to make sure that all happens before a key is handed out. So I'll follow up on that.
You're here.
Thank you, Mark. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Any other discussions that need to be brought up? No? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
I'll make the motion. Almost speaking there.
Second.
Okay, folks.
Have a
Phyllis,
good night,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, have a wonderful evening, folks. Be
Thank
good.
you,
Be
Phyllis.
safe. All right.
Bye.
All right.
All
Good
right.
night.
Bye-bye
Good
now.
to catch up, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all. Take care.
Good night, all.
Good night.